Okay. Well, hello everyone and welcome. Thank you guys for joining us today. We're very excited to be hosting these industry series events. So this webinar is part of our Luxent industry series where we sit down with leaders who are in specific different industries and are really in the weeds running the technologies that you guys are interested in learning more about for their company. So today we are talking all things wireless industry. And I've got two great guests here with me today, Matt Ward, VP of Finance at P&R Communications, and my colleague Cheryl Hoff, VP of Customer Success here at Luxent. So let's get into it. First things first, I want to welcome or introduce you guys to everyone we have on the call here. So first, let's welcome Matt Ward, VP of Finance at P&R Communications. Matt has a deep background in pricing and strategy, and he's going to walk us through P&R's NetSuite journey and kind of the impact that it's made on their business today. And next up, I want to introduce Cheryl Hoff. She's our VP of Customer Success at Luxent, and Cheryl has a really incredible background in the ERP and cloud platforms, and she really knows the wireless industry very, very well, and she kind of knows it inside and out. So she works directly with our customer base and kind of works with them day to day to see what's working, what's not, how to problem solve things, and really how to get the most out of NetSuite. And finally, I am Brooke Geipus. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Luxent. And I work closely with a lot of growing companies kind of as they are scaling on NetSuite. So I'll be your guys' host today for the most part. And I'll be kind of guiding the conversation, and we're very excited. So with that, I'm going to give you just a quick introduction on who Luxent is, and then we'll get started. So Luxent has been helping companies implement, grow, and scale on NetSuite for the last 16 plus years, and we're a premier NetSuite solution partner. And a certified Suite Cloud development partner. So we really cover the full life cycle of people's ERP journeys from selection, implementation, integration, custom development, and all of the fun ongoing support. Our consultants average more than 10 years of experience, and we really focus on companies in the wireless communication industry, medical device, food and beverage, software, and then a handful of others. So, okay, well, first things I want to do here is kind of set the stage. So before we really jump into this conversation, I wanted to give everyone on the call here today a little bit of a better understanding of what P&R was really looking to get out of a new system like NetSuite when they first came to us a handful of years ago. So they first expressed that there were some obviously major pain points that they were struggling with the current systems that they were using. And they also had some wants that they wanted out of a new system. So with a new, updated, fun, fancy system, there's some things that you want to do that are beyond just kind of the basics there. So I imagine many of you on the call today are looking at some of these things on this list on the screen and saying, wow, that really relates to me. Something that was really important was overall visibility, a single source of truth where we're looking at things in a whole bunch of different systems. Like, how do we see this in a better, more unified way? So subsidiary management, more robust reporting that doesn't take 3 to 4 days to try and pull and get out of a system, project tracking, CRM, a better visibility in your inventory. That's obviously very important. Tracking maintenance contracts. And then another really big important thing was kind of having that cloud platform with that mobile accessibility. So now that I've kind of set the stage here, you guys have a little bit of a better understanding of where we were when we started this journey. I want to open up and talk with Matt about how they look, 2 years down the road. Okay, I am going to stop sharing my screen here so you guys can see all of our lovely faces as we kind of move through this interview. Okay, hello everyone. I can see you now. I'm very excited. Okay, Matt, so just kind of to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what the landscape looked like at P&R, kind of when you stepped into this role on day one of the NetSuite implementation?
Yeah, so my background was more kind of corporate, as Brooke had mentioned, in pricing and strategy, a little bit of finance earlier in the career, corporate finance stuff, and early in the year. I did have familiarity with P&R because it is a family business, and that's my in-laws' family business. So certainly knew some of the struggles they were going through with systems and stuff coming in. But my first day on the job, I was thrown right into basically the 3 days of kickoff with the Luxent team. So I really knew nothing as I started with P&R. I mean, I knew what we did and stuff like that, but first day was 3 days of meeting with the Luxent team to get started.
The best start to a new position.
I'm still here, right?
So
So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for that background. So, coming into a company that was kind of in the middle of moving away from some systems that had been in place for many years, which is the case for many of the wireless companies that we've worked with, what were some of the immediate manual processes that you identified as some of the biggest opportunities for improvement? Like, what were you really hoping to see kind of out of NetSuite there?
Yeah, since I was kind of more on the finance side for P&R, there was two things I think that popped was how manual it was to do things like send invoices, which obviously very important to a business, and get things entered for AP side, right? And
Mhm.
doing check runs and how it was all over the place. So just kind of on that side, just the processes of everyday bookkeeping that you have to do took a lot of time. And the other one is as I was kind of right, starting, I'm trying to learn and I'm asking basic business questions, kind of where do I get sales by customers for the first quarter? Some, basic kind of business questions, I would say. Our old system just couldn't get information out. Couldn't get information out. So it was just very cumbersome. Maybe we could get it out, but it came in like a PDF format.
Mm.
Being a finance person, I'm used to Excel, obviously, so you can kind of run some analyses and whatnot. So those were kind of the two big ones and just the data was in all different spots, right? Some of it
Mhm.
was email. We did have a system. We had a service, a ticketing system for service, um, SharePoint, people's brains, right? All that stuff, all that information was everywhere. So.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
just a note. I know I'm probably not supposed to speak now, but it was very true when we started this. It was pretty apparent that there was the silos in the system in the operation, and what Matt said that there was like I'm going to pick on the sales guy. It was all in his head. He figured out what that quote's going to look like. It's all there, and then by the time it had to get to somebody to actually do something with it, it was telephoned. So now everybody's working on the same data set, and it's clearly communicated. It's in writing. It's right there that's what I want. So there was that gap, but it came out in the conversations around where's that? I got it somewhere, anyway, but not to pick on
Let
it.
me search
Anyway,
my brain here.
Right, right,
yeah,
right.
Always a little bit spooky there.
yeah,
So, Matt, P&R, I know you guys kind of really manage a complex kind of business here with tower rentals, maintenance contracts, fixed bid projects, equipment sales, and rentals, and all of this is kind of ongoing simultaneously. You know, how did you and Cheryl, you as well, kind of approach structuring your ERP to handle all of this, different kind of revenue streams?
Yeah, I got to give credit to Cheryl and your team really because we didn't really know what we were getting. We knew what NetSuite was, but I feel like the Luxent team was able to guide us in the right direction, right? Because as Cheryl just mentioned, we are all over the place, right? And so now everything we do basically drives through a sales order, which wasn't the case before. It was service was held over here, and you're jumping systems. So who knows? I mean, I kind of makes me sick to my stomach how many tickets we might have had to bill for, but we never did, right? And that's real money just out the door that we did the work,
Yeah.
but because we've got to take it manually from one system to another, then someone had to enter it in the new system and then invoice. Now everything we do flows through a sales order. It cannot get invoiced without a sales order, which has been awesome.
yeah, yeah. Just add to that just a little bit. So that was the fundamental. One place, one source of truth, I think was the mantra, right? And it had to start somewhere and somewhere, whether it was an order or sometimes in a quote, but the order was the basics. That's the gospel truth. That's what we're working on. We know where it's at any point, like it's pending approval, it's some being worked, or waiting on parts, whatever, but it's the central hub of how everything works, and everything else falls around it. And when we were working with the P&R, like NetSuite is the platform, it's an ERP application, that's what it's supposed to do. But then there were some nuances of their business that we went and we looked at other applications that work with NetSuite. NetSuite has an ecosystem of applications that we can bring to bear to the core NetSuite. And so in some cases we did that. right? We augmented some of that piece, right, to facilitate a piece of the business. And so this it was pulling all that together. But fundamentally, even all those apps start with an order. So that was kind of a foundational, right? Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, super helpful. And Matt, I remember you kind of had mentioned to me at one point in time that when we were first going into the kind of implementation piece, there was a lot of pieces you guys had that were running smoothly and you liked the way that they were running, and that you thought it was great that NetSuite was able to kind of flex to what your business processes, some of your business processes already looked like versus trying to like kind of fit a square peg in a round hole.
Oh yeah, I think that was huge. I think it was a healthy mix of each, right? And again,
Right.
a lot of this was
Yep.
with some guidance from the Luxent team, but we have a lot of weird things going on. Like, we have vendors that are customers, we have customers that are direct customers, and also custom kind of sub-custom, all this stuff going on that we all deal with. Um, but the
Yep.
fact that the system is kind of customizable enough, and I don't mean
Hmm.
like to a degree where you need a PhD to figure it out, but it's you can bend it the way it works. And then which was awesome because a lot of our stuff we liked how it did, but we just wanted it in a system so we could
Hmm.
track it. And so a lot of our business processes fell into that bucket. But then there was other ones where it's like, why are you doing this? Well, that's because we have to because of the system. We'd much rather do it this way. And
Hmm.
NetSuite was able to accommodate that too, to drive kind of efficiencies through our operations.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think you had just mentioned, Matt, one of the key things was the disparity with the field service, which you do a lot of, right? I mean, that's your mainstay. You are a services company,
Services. Yep, yep.
right? Top. Oh, by the way, you sell some product along the way, but you're fundamentally a service company, right? And so all of that was disconnected in somewhere else. So now that we have tickets, service tickets, what do I got to do? Is it billable or not flowing through the system? And if it is, it generates a sales order and you invoice it. So how is that kind of, you kind of mentioned it, rocked your world a little bit in a good way?
No, it's been awesome because that's another good point that we haven't even touched on yet is now our contracts are so we have maintenance contracts, right? So if we get a service call, if you have a service contract with us, a lot of the stuff is part of that contract, the maintenance contract that you pay us for, right? And not I'm not even talking about the billing of the contracts. It's now is that right away say, oh, this is Joe from ABC, oh, you have a contract. That ticket gets set up right away as a contract ticket, contracted sales order. So we don't have all this as far as kind of forecasting and things like that. We know right away that the system knows. We've always known, but the system now knows that this one's not going to generate revenue. This is zero. We owe this to the customer. They pay us a different way, right? And the versus now a T&M, we have live tracking of the data, right, of the time, and if they have to go back and all that stuff. So, again, going all the way back to that centralized sales order, right? The sales order that drives everything. Well, the tickets kind of come that way as well. So, and it's a real easy app that our techs just click buttons, right? So, leaving, done, message, what I did, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And then so you got the ticket, kind of the field work, but then you got the big projects too. And talk about a little bit about how projects you introduced projects, or you always had projects. You always did them, but then how are you managing them within NetSuite now with the project and the capabilities there on figuring out what you got, and we're not pencil scratching how much money did we make on that one, right?
No,
So
yeah, no,
yeah.
absolutely. Projects is probably what we call projects in our business accounts for about half of our revenue, right? So it is definitely the biggest driver. This is going to sound kind of bizarre, but before NetSuite, we did very little to no kind of project profitability analysis, right? What went well, what didn't go well. We kind of knew like, oh yeah, we ran into some issues on a job, but from a reporting perspective, you'd have to pull data from, like I kind of said earlier, maybe the SharePoint drive. You'd probably have to interview the techs that worked on it. You'd go to the ticketing system and find that, well, none of the tickets were accurate because we didn't really have the checks and balances in place to make them accurate. Um, you got the sales order over in another system, right? And so
Yeah.
the best we could do was really just guess and who knows, right? And it took that took probably a week to do one project. So in being a small business, we don't have a week to do one project. We got to get on to the next one. And now
Mm,
it's lit. I'm not kidding. It's all set up. I know obviously there was a lot of work going into this to get it set up, but it's a click of a button. I can tell you exactly where a project is today. Um, the Lexus team helped us build a lot of reports. We can go in and I can see where we are, what we budgeted, what we've used on a project as far as labor
mm,
today. And now we have, it's kind of just part of our regular monthly cycle. We actually bi-weekly, it's not even, it's bi-weekly that we look at projects that closed and get that information fed back to kind of our pre-sales engineers to say, okay, well, we're trying to get better. We're not, in there to, we're trying to get better. That's the whole thing. So what happened here is all we're doing, right? We're
yeah.
not here there to scold or anything, but we now have the information of to be able to tie all that stuff together and be smarter the next time we do it, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's so great. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing, really, where you've come from. Hamstrung, you ran a very successful business. Now you're a little bit unhamstrung, and you have more data and
yep.
easier to work. And it's going to be, I think you mentioned you doubled or something, with the assistance of a solution like this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have since I think, we've been blessed enough that I think we're about, as far as revenue, double the size we were probably more like 6 to 7, 8 years ago, but short
Yeah.
time to double the size. And we actually have less full-time employees than we did back, 6 or 7 years ago, doing twice the amount of work. So
Yeah.
certainly the tools like Luxent, yeah, or NetSuite that Luxent help implement
Yeah.
are part of that, right? I mean,
Hmm.
even on my team alone, when I started, I had just two, were small, but two full-time. One left to pursue another opportunity. We never backfilled that position, and my other one went down to part-time for 24 hours a week, and I don't see the need to hire someone else. So that's real dollars right there. I can
Right.
100% say that, 1.5 people right there. That's 100% all because of the system.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Impressive. Good for you guys. I mean, honestly, I mean, that's huge.
It is.
And
It
then
is.
I
It's
think,
not small.
when, you were talking about invoicing challenges, in the old way, right? You had to get the order, what it was, plug in the invoice, send it out, right? There was a big trail, and now that's all hooked in with our fancy little order. But also we've automated, or you've automated the ability to pay that invoice, right? Emailing it out with the hot link to, pay. How is that, how's that helped out?
It's been. I mean, it's going to sound funny to say, but it's been adjustment because
Mm,
when an order is ready to be invoiced, the person on my team that does the invoicing it's out the door in an hour. I mean, to talk about like cash is king, right? And so getting invoices out where she used to spend 2 days a week doing them before, and so they'd
Wow.
get backlogged and stuff like that. So it was actually a little bit of, as far as the timing piece, a little bit of a kind of a culture shock. I was, God, you can't, you know, kind of upstream from our, the invoicer is if it's not ready to invoice it, don't put it in ready to, don't get it there because it's going to be invoiced in an hour. I mean, that's how quick.
yeah,
So it's a little bit of culture change that way. Like you better
yeah,
have everything, all your ducks in a row before you do it. That's going out. And then yes, and then that was another thing. We're going all the email. So believe it or not,
right.
we used to mail a lot of invoices from the old system, pretty much all of them. And if they were emailed, they were outside the system, right? It wasn't
Hmm.
generated from our system. We printed them, scanned them, and then sent them. So it wasn't really an email. And then
Yeah,
now they all have a pay now link that customer can just go in, click pay, and uh, put in their credit card information, pay the invoice, and it's done. And then there's all sort of reconciliation reports that help us on the back end to know, okay, we get this money into our account. Well, it's so simple to go, okay, what was that money from? Boom, 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 apply the payments and be done.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So one of the things too, I think we were talking about, so that's great. I mean, again, we're going to focus on because we love it, our order piece. But how has the field service tie into the order with the project and the accounting stuff? You touched on it. You have reports you can now see. You can uh, improve the process. You can look at it, right? Some of the stuff we had talked about way back when was like, hey, the technician had to go to the store and go get something from Lowe's, and oh, that didn't get accounted for. So, some of those changes in the capabilities there. What do
Yeah,
can you,
so I think for like the first time, I know we tried it like 6 or 7 years ago, but we really have true what we'd call, like Cheryl, you said earlier, we are a service company, right? So one of the big KPIs is labor utilization, right? And it's
hmm
we want people on jobs working. We want to know what you're doing. We're not playing Big Brother, but we're trying to make your job easier as
right,
well. So we were able to kind of go in, find through analyzing all this data that well, what happened here? Because we finally have the data analyzed, right? So what in the world we I'm just going to give a fictitious example, but it was 2 hours we had you budgeted for. It took you four. What happened? Well, I got there, forgot a part, had to go to load this that, and that's all captured because now we know it's 4 hours. Well, now what we're
right,
doing is to drive labor utilization to, increase that, um, is putting things on trucks and things like that they commonly need, right? And what that does is we did all the math kind of again because we had the data, but what we figured out is if we can just find 23 minutes per tech a year for the size of our business, I'm sorry, a week, 23 minutes. So that's it. So out of the 40 hours a week, if we can spend 23 more minutes not doing those trips to Lowe's or whatever it is, that can
right.
drive $84,000 worth of revenue to our bottom line, right? And so
Wow.
that type of visibility and seeing what challenges they had and why, asking the questions and being able to
Right.
ask the questions, it's impressive. I mean, it's real dollars. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. Yeah. So, and that all ties into, project profitability because you break fix. So that same scenario goes with your projects, right? So delays on a project is going to cost you. So now you have all that visibility. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see, what else do we have to talk about? Um, you touched on the contracts management piece. So that, that is another component of your business that I think is somewhat could be underappreciated, let's just say. Right? Because you've got a lot of, you've got an obligation to a client, for services, and you need to know what it is and how many and who what and when do I have to go see them and all that. So with the NetSuite, solution, and I said we brought in, additional things like listening to you. There's other applications in the ecosystem that we brought on to facilitate the end-to-end. NetSuite's in the middle, but and they're all NetSuite products. But how do we focus specifically on the contracts management business and take that out? Because I remember in the early days talking to Grace, what she had to do in order to figure out who's next. And she was always trying to keep ahead, 90 days, which was a struggle because she had to go pull that data and who's there and who's not there anymore. And then reconciling equipment. And now her job should be much more easy, because we've got that all built out again, starting from what did they buy? How
yep.
many did they buy? And it flows all the way to your field service, right? And I know I've got to go cover, I have to go cover these guys and I got to go perform some work for them on some cadence. So, that piece, thoughts on that? I know I just probably answered your question, but I didn't answer
No, no, but there's a couple things.
it.
First of all, I think there's two pieces with the contracts. One is the service side, right? So I'd mentioned earlier we can plug that in, but now we have equipment records. So now if
Yeah,
a piece of equipment that is serialized, right, needs service, we have a record of that, right? And so we can tell what we did last time, what happened, how often it's been serviced. We're actually getting to the point getting smarter with this data and saying, okay, now we're turning this into a sales lead that, okay, XYZ's has the equipment's on its last leg. I mean, it is out of warranty. we're looking at it all the time like that. So on that side, sales lead, right? The other tricky
Yeah.
part with contracts is obviously the way we used to do it is kind of do all the whole concept of deferred revenue, right? And
Oh, right. Hmm.
like we'd have this big thing at the end of the year, basically working with our external accountants to get our deferred revenue all right. And now it's all in the system. It's smooth, right? So it's all recognized when it's supposed to be. There's no all these crazy spikes based on invoicing and this crazy adjustment at the end. So that's been helpful as well, right? So we can kind of know where we're at throughout the year. Because a lot of ours are, we have a lot of monthlies, right, which are easy, but we have a lot of big annual contracts that don't start till like July or something. And we do a lot with the state and local governments, which a lot of
Yeah.
their fiscal years are different than a calendar year. So that might align differently. So just being able to really understand our contract revenue, um, which is important for our business. I mean, it's just to probably put it right behind projects as far as size for us. And
Yeah.
so I hope I answered your question, but I kind
Yeah.
of
No,
all over
no,
the
that's
place
great.
there
Yeah.
too.
The revenue thing was key. And then I think you anecdotally told us that your year-end audit was used to be X, it is now Y.
Yeah, yeah, so that's a real true savings. I mean, that's real dollars right there. The first 2 years that I did kind of our year-end county review slash audit with our accountants, I probably spent because it was the old system, right? Well, first year was all old system. Second year was uh, partial NetSuite and partial old system. So
Yeah.
old system was still in there. Um, but I
Hmm.
probably spent at least 3 weeks straight getting ready for that meeting. And then the accountants were on site for 4 days, I think, each time. And this last year, which is we do it in January, first full year all in NetSuite, I was able to get everything they asked for in, gosh, I want to say 2 or 3 days, and that's probably because I had a lot of other stuff going on. So you think about it, 3 weeks down to 2 to 3 days, and they were only on site. So 4 days of hourly billing from the accountants, right? Not cheap, went
Hmm.
down to essentially about 8 hours. It was like one afternoon and one morning, and they're like, "We're done." I mean, I don't, and so they left, and I was like, "Well, that was," and we had 4 days blocked off, and they didn't show up till noon the first day because they had some other things going on, and they were out by 11 a.m. the next day. And so that again, that's real money that we did not have to get billed because I had the information and questions that they would have were right there at my fingertips, right? Where the old system, all right, I got to go find, I mean, paper. I mean, got to go ask people and all that stuff.
Yeah.
If it was in the system, it came over as PDF, and they would want it Excel, and so I'd have to figure out how to get it to. So yeah. So again, real
Oh
money.
my God. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's great. So, well, Brooke, I think we're done kind of that side of it.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, I have
Okay.
some other fun questions here for you,
Yeah.
Matt. And yeah, I'm sure Cheryl, you can kind of add some context as well, just like from a more kind of consulting perspective. So, I
Yeah.
know NetSuite, obviously, as we've been really touting, NetSuite's a very, very powerful platform. And, a lot of wireless companies, you guys have complex kind of needs. You're kind of your own little beast there. So sometimes you do need some of those additional tools alongside of NetSuite. So how did you guys kind of approach identifying, where to maybe use a third party or where to use NetSuite? How did you guys kind of like flow through that? And maybe Cheryl might know that a little bit more than you, Matt, there.
I was going to say we asked Luxent,
Yeah.
so they kind of did an evaluation of our business and they asked the right questions. So I'm going to let Cheryl answer, but
Well, I think Matt just said it. I mean, we tried to understand your business as best we can, right? Get into the nitty-gritty, into the details, and figure out what would best serve, the operation, your operation, and gain efficiencies out of that. And sometimes you got to look at those add-on applications to NetSuite, like we did. And really that's the process because again, you have literally, in my mind, you have three separate businesses almost, kind of. They're all related, but you have got your services, contract maintenance stuff, you've got your projects, your build outs, right? And then, oh, by the way, you sell some radios sometimes, right? But so and the two big ones, but each one of those are unique. in their own right, and what you needed from a software application, was a little bit different along the way. But again, we went back to our big fat order in the middle was the glue, and so we picked applications that operated off of that, so that we had that core core
Mhm.
thing to work from. But yeah, but and then getting good answers from the business, really. I mean, right? Giving us details, right? Like thinking it through, and what do you need, and what are your pain, and not, and the team shared, it was very good. We got, we had, Matt said 4 days. I think we did 4 days on site, and then, weeks after that, a couple of, we had to have calls, but
Yeah.
really try to understand the specific use cases. And normally you kind of focused on the 80/20, and then you miss the 20. So we did the 80, and then we got into the 20 to make sure that the 20% was covered by the solution, right? We needed to make sure those also fit into our solution. So, and that's where we came up with some of our, other things that we needed to help.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, just one thing, Brooke, on that too, is that as a user, I mean, Cheryl keeps talking about the different things that we had to add on, these little things that we had to add on to fit our business. But from a user perspective, it all looks and feels like
Yeah.
NetSuite. So when they build
Yeah.
these things in, I don't have a separate login, or I don't have to go to a different
Hmm.
web page or anything. It's all right in there. And
Right.
as a user, I have no idea. I have no idea I'm using something that's actually not quote unquote native NetSuite. It's actually a different add-on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
they do a really NetSuite does a nice job of you have no
Yeah.
idea. You
Yeah.
wouldn't know.
And that's also, and
Yeah.
I imagine that lends itself a lot to, you've been on a system for many, many years. You have a lot of users that are very used to that system, and change management is real. Like, it's hard to move a whole company into a new ERP. And we see that a lot, where people are like, we don't have the time to manage this. Like, what do we do? Our users are going to hate it, all this stuff. And, promoting that change management, and from what I have heard from what you guys did, is it really came from the top. When leadership is talking about, like, we're moving to this new system, it's going to save you time, it's going to be a lot more user friendly, a lot easier to do, and it's going to ultimately help you. I think that's a big piece of what made you guys so successful on NetSuite.
Yeah, I agree. I think that looking back, is we had a little kind of mini quote unquote marketing campaign within our company to get the buzz created. And I think the other thing that
Yeah.
helped us a lot is we kind of brought people along for the journey, right? So when we
Hmm.
knew someone's job, there's certain roles in our organization that were definitely going to be impacted a lot more than others, right? By a brand new system. So I think including them, like Cheryl, you met a lot of them along the way,
Yeah.
them showing
Yeah.
demo, getting feedback from them. I think that was really important as well, is kind of bringing them along, not just here it is, we're live,
Right.
Right.
figure it out, right? And I think that was a lot of guidance from Cheryl and team that all right, let's no, all right, well, I want to see you do it, right? There's no pressure here. And I think just getting that
Right.
something new, it's uncomfortable, but just getting over that hump helped big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that real honest feedback. So what I'm hearing, and I'm going to toot our own horn here at Luxent, is that, the right partner for sure can really help kind of shape the way that getting a new system like NetSuite into your company, really make it successful. So kind of what was your experience on that front? Like, I know you weren't there in the selection of working with specifically Luxent, but, I know you had some kind of tangential connection there. So how did that kind of look?
Yeah, yeah. So the decision to go with NetSuite and Luxent, I was not part of it all. I had a little experience with Oracle products before, but that's it. It was the decision was already made. But I have talked to other companies like ours, and several. I think all of them that I've talked to that did not use a consultant had to scrap it and start over, and it's not great, but. And actually one of them used, I think you guys were I think that's where we found it. They used two or three other consultants,
Mm.
and finally found Luxent and got things running, right? So it's not an easy thing, right? And Luxent's been great. So the other thing is about Luxent, again, kind of shameless plug here for you guys, but
Yeah.
you guys
We'll take
really, I
it.
mean,
We'll take it.
the whole team makes you feel like you're the only client, right? And it still impresses me, in some ways we'll get on calls. Now we're kind of in like a just a support model now. We're doing little tweaks here and some stuff. I mean, it's a living, breathing thing that's always going to
Hmm.
change, right? So we
Yep.
still have constant communication with um, the Luxent team, but sometimes they know the bit like I don't even remember why did we do it, but why did we, well, and they know the answer right away. So this is what remember that Matt was this, it was this, it was this. So just you get they the team really cares and wants the best solution and really kind of integrates themselves into our business and um like I said, kind of felt like we were the only client, and maybe we were because ours was a mess, but I don't know. But so that's what I mean. I have definitely would not change anything. So
Wow, I love to hear that, and we know that the wireless space is different and complex and it's unique, and I think at Luxent we definitely do pride ourselves on having some really great industry experts that know your guys' space because we kind of took the time to learn it, a long time ago, and um, you know, we love what you guys do. It's very cool.
awesome. Yeah, no, you guys have been
All
awesome.
right. I just have a couple more questions here, very, very short, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. But just kind of like looking forward, what are the next steps kind of on your roadmap here for, NetSuite and the growth of P&R?
Yep. So obviously the big one that and it's funny because Luxon's pushing us to, so I'm uncomfortable is the old
I,
AI, right? So
yeah.
and I know it's a big Oracle thing right now. Um, we're probably a little behind on it, but Heather and Cheryl both kind of just to get Claude all integrated, and I'm warming up to it. So how we can
Yeah.
use
Yeah.
it, and it's been I'll be honest, it's been pretty impressive so far. So that's one. And then just kind of expanding NetSuite to accommodate other parts of our business. So one
Hmm.
area we want to grow is in our rental, so we can rent, our equipment, do a rental model. And so
Hmm.
Luxen, I think this is your own homegrown that you
Hmm.
guys actually built this kind of. We talk about these different add-ons
Yep.
that we had. Well, the rental is one that we haven't implemented. We're right in the process, but it's pretty slick. So this is a Luxon product that is going to align really to, being able to see, okay, we don't even know what we have, right? And we just kind of rent. Oh yeah, go ahead, rent. But if we can get the system in place, which we're probably a week away from doing, that's going to be another
Yep.
big one. I think what that will allow us to do is get the baseline to build that business. I mean, we couldn't build it
Yeah.
without where we are today, right? Um,
Yep.
so that's another big one. I don't know, Share what other those are two big ones I think is AI and rentals that are kind of on our roadmap.
Yep, I think so. And we had a little bit of stuff with maybe some the quota stuff, more upstream forecasting stuff we had talked about, you know, um, just for better visibility and planning. But yeah, and then the Claude thing is really around, what we talked about the other day was you've got you've got 2 years of data that can tell you something, and you're using it today, and you are looking at the transactions, and you are making decisions now. How do you level that up a little bit and start thinking about what else do I need to know with that data? Because the data is good. You
Hmm.
have processes, you have structure in your data. We all follow, everybody follows the same thing. So when you're looking at it, that's for real, right? And you can make some decisions. So I think, with Claude's help, the KPIs, I mean, the world is changing, and you and I'm behind the 8 ball too. I am behind the 8 ball, but I know it's there and it is useful. But again, to get what you've built and your operations and figure that out again to make your ability to make business decisions easier, right? It's
Yeah.
that's really the bottom line is, well, we got to cut this part of our business out because we're not making any money on that anymore, right? We're spending like see you later, cut that off, those kind of things, right? Which is hard if you don't have the right data and you think, oh, I got an invoice for that. Oh, that's good. Well, that invoice didn't really cover Sam and Joe and Sally that did all that work, but I mean, we brought in a check. So, but is it worthwhile, right? So
Right.
that kind of stuff. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I think that's focus for, now that you
Yeah.
have the baseline, right? It's just you have the baseline, you can do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I know AI is a big buzzword out there. Everyone's talking about it. And it's like, where do we start? How do we do this?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to be on the game? Like, where do I go? But it all comes down
Yeah.
to, how good is your data and how clean is your data, or you're just going to get AI slop. So,
Right. Yeah.
okay, Matt. Well, one final question here, and this is kind of advice to the crowd, but what advice would you give to other wireless companies kind of considering the switch to another ERP system, specifically NetSuite?
My advice is do it. It's really what it comes down to. But I think have the big thing it is a big investment. Again, I would advise use a consultant if not only their knowledge, um, but they help push us along, right? They help us accountable for, okay, if we need this by this date, where are you with it?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you with it? Without, and in a good way. I'm not saying that in a bad way. Um, and the other one I think is again as part of using a consultant to do it. I think it having and several people I think on the Luxent team have accounting backgrounds, so how everything
Yeah.
fits into P&L balance sheet is huge as well. I mean,
Yeah.
and the best way to do that stuff, and it's a great opportunity to kind of, and we used it as an opportunity to clean up our chart of accounts and things like that, and how we look at things and segment
Yeah.
things and all that stuff. So I would also say go in with an open mind, right? So patience and open mind, and those are the big ones.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt and Cheryl. I really appreciate all the
Yeah.
insight that you've kind of given, and hopefully everyone has gotten kind of a better kind of understanding of how NetSuite can kind of fit into the wireless space. So I'm going to share my screen again and just kind of close us out here. So as we wrap things up today, I just wanted to leave everyone with kind of a quick look of how NetSuite is helping wireless companies grow really through, obviously, technology. And I honestly think one of the biggest impacts NetSuite has is providing that single source of truth. So we talked about it multiple times on the call today, is like, how do we get everything into one system, and how can we
Yeah.
see everything? Because that's been one of the biggest challenges, especially for P&R and many other companies that we've worked with. So, and instead of juggling different systems for all of the different aspects of your business, NetSuite really ties everything together in kind of that one unified view. So your team's getting real-time data that they can trust, reporting that they can pull that they can trust. And something else that Matt, and Cheryl also touched on is that ability that NetSuite is flexible and established enough to have multiple APIs. So you can connect those other systems that you might need access to for your specific business processes into one system, and it still just looks like that one system. So that's super important as well. And it's bringing everything into that single, manageable, kind of intuitive, easy to use system. I think, the user interface is pretty easy to kind of navigate and follow along with. And that's always a challenge, as you start into a new system, like how easy is my team going to be able to adopt this? So ultimately, it really cleans up those day-to-day operations, and it's just kind of helping teams get ready for the future. And, like Matt just said, having all of that data ready and available for the inevitable AI kind of coming into companies and helping things kind of flush out, you have to have that data accessible and have it be actually good data. So what a great start. So thank you, Matt and Cheryl, for kind of everything that you guys talked about today. Before we wrap up, if you would like to see NetSuite in action, we are hosting a wireless for our NetSuite for wireless companies demo on June 18th, so that you can actually see kind of how NetSuite's actually working, the day-to-day, see some of the different screens and how it flows and what it could look like for your company. So if you would like to attend that, we will be sending out registrations for that in the next week or so here. And if you are interested in NetSuite now, reach out and we can schedule a 30-minute demo to kind of get a better understanding of your business and share some budgetary pricing. But if you're not ready to kind of get started on your NetSuite journey, there is a survey that will pop up at the end of this call here in just a moment, and you can select to just be part of our newsletter and just get updates and information, and just kind of learn a little bit more about NetSuite. So thank you, everyone, for attending today. Please fill out the survey at the end of the call, and we look forward to working with you soon. Have a great day.